Hey, good Friday or Saturday evening, Sunday morning, depending on where you are. Hope you're all well. Welcome to Wacky Weekend Lite, the Arty show without Arty, the Down Under show that's up and over. Uh, don't really have anything planned. Hoping to keep this a short night tonight. Uh, I had some ideas, and as I've been sitting here, we've had some um, been busy with family stuff and everything else. Um, so I want to talk a little bit about a friend of mine from the UK. And this is a topic that gets rehashed over and over and over. But the message, I think, never gets cleared. But there was a UK channel, is a UK channel, Leighton Junction, run by a friend, Al Leighton. And Al and his partner, George, George was actually the motivation behind this channel. And George passed away a few years ago. And in George's memory, Al tried, kept the channel going, kept the layout going, posting videos. But for whatever reason, even though they had a beautiful layout and run beautiful trains, they run a mix of both UK and continental trains. They, for whatever reason, take a lot of guff. They take a lot of criticism. And a lot of it's UK guys saying, hey, stop running the continental stuff. You're a UK guy, run UK trains, stupid stuff like that. Well, Al apparently has had one too many criticisms and has left the hobby. Or he's left YouTube. He is not going to post anymore, at least as of this message. And it's really sad because he had a beautiful layout and great trains. And we talk about criticisms and dealing with that. And of course, the first response most people have is, you just got to ignore the criticisms. You just got to ignore it. And the problem is that's actually very cold. And for some people, it's easy to maybe ignore it. For other people, it's not easy to ignore it. Because when we post on YouTube, oh, no problem, no problem. In fact, before I go any further on this dark topic, let me say hello to everybody, if I can get to it. There we go. I want to say hi to Attila Varga, the wonder from down under. We've got Hot Dog Pilot Andy, John Benicki. Randall Ellison is here. And Randall, yeah, you are kind of in the middle of all that natural disaster that hit the Midwest this week. Sorry that your area is going through that. It's tough. Ray Bertelson is here. Ray Bobel is here. Ray, no worries. I saw Scott Reels was here earlier. Hi, Dave. Stormy Sky Rail Productions is here. Thanks for popping in. And Mark from Zantech is here. And that's what I see on my list. If I missed anybody, I apologize. I'll try to catch up. And I'm just scrolling back right now. But yeah, I did a video about this a while ago, probably a year or so ago, when several YouTubers, big YouTubers from the UK and a couple of Americans, all within like 3 weeks of each other, announced they were taking a break from YouTube because of the negativity. And, when somebody goes out and says, hey, I've taken some negative criticism, the first response of most people is, oh, you just got to ignore it. Just ignore it. Don't say anything back. Just ignore it. Pretend like you didn't see it. But I always equate that to the phrase, the straw that broke the camel's back. Everybody says just ignore it until you've had that one too many criticisms. And yes, some people, it's easier to criticize. Other people are very thin-skinned. I occasionally get upset, and yes, I talk about it. I'm very open. I'm open about my ADD. I'm open about my autism. I'm very open about my emotional, mental state, because I think we have to normalize understanding that there are people that have these things. I have manic depression, and it's a struggle. I've learned, I know how to control it, but it doesn't mean it's not there and that I don't have to fight it a little harder. And so the thing is, yeah, some people, it doesn't bother me, and that's great. But the majority of people, it builds up over time. And somebody like Al, he was never controversial. He just had a beautiful layout, ran his trains, and occasionally ran British stock and occasionally ran UK stock. And yet he took a lot of criticism. My friend Christopher, and depending on what week it is, I tease Christopher here. You might know him as Sakura-densha. You might know him as Christopher's hobby blog. He's currently Christopher's Continental Christopher, because he's experimenting with Continental trains from his Japanese and UK stuff he runs. And he always changes his name to match where his interest is at the time. When he was a Japanese train only, I was there and would see people coming in and giving him grief that, why are you running Japanese trains? Well, because he likes Japanese trains. Shouldn't that be enough? And the thing is, we ignore the cretins because we think of it as wasted energy to call them out. But my attitude is we have to start calling people out. We have to make them a bit afraid to shoot their mouths off. We do. Everybody has freedom of speech, but freedom of speech doesn't mean you're free from the repercussions of your speech, okay? You can go to a movie theater right now and in the middle of the theater scream, fire, freedom of speech. However, you can be arrested for inciting unnecessary panic or riot, okay? There are repercussions for free speech. We just can't stop you from saying it. But if you say something wrong, we can punish you for it. People assume freedom of speech means I can say what I want, nobody can touch me for it. That's not exactly how it works. It's freedom of speech in the Constitution simply means that the government will not pass any law that says you are not allowed to talk. But for safety, public safety reasons, there's a lot of speech that is limited. So it's tough. It's tough. I didn't think it was rude, Christopher. I thought it was, fairly accurate. I like it. It lets me know where you're at. When you're Sakura-densha, I'm like, okay, you're back toward this way of thinking. When you're Christopher's hobby blog, I know you're doing this stuff. It's actually very helpful. I call myself Model Train Outsider, and Steve Childers occasionally teases on his live streams on Friday and says, I'll always be the insider. And it's like, no, I'm not an insider. I am definitely not an insider. There is a group, and I will always be on that outside border of it. And even within my own group, I'm probably an outsider, even in my own group. Even with the Knights of the Rhomboid Table, I'm probably a bit of an outsider. Yeah, so the thing is, we see comments, and of course, if I get negative, I get all kinds of negative emails, but I also understand that in many cases, I invite criticism. When I post a parody song, when I post a Matt Clark episode. People can complain, and I get lots of complaints. Why are you putting this on this channel? It's a model train channel. Just run your trains. And I will say, the song's about model trains. Matt Clark is about trains. It still fits, but we do, I love the comment. I can't tell you how many emails I've gotten over the years whenever I sing a parody song. And I get the email or the comment says that, dude, have you ever heard yourself sing? You suck. It's like, yes, I've heard myself sing. I know I suck. If you read the description of the video, I know I suck. So I don't get upset about that. I don't worry when somebody criticizes something I already know sucks, I do occasionally get upset when I get people criticizing, like, you're running all those electric trains and you don't have catenary up. Why don't you have the catenary up? You need to get catenary up. You need to have signs. Your trains are running, or your trains never stop at the station. Why don't you have an automated system? Because I don't want an automated system. And I can ignore a lot of that criticism, but sometimes it gets overbearing. There are the draconian people that just, because they're just a name on a line, they feel they're free to just go beyond. Because see, I won't even offer constructive criticism on a channel. Somebody's like, your lighting here sucks. It's like, yeah, I'm not a professional studio. I'm in a basement. Of course my lighting sucks. And I'm not going to spend $200, $300, $400 to set up a couple of light stands to make it perfect lighting for some guy who mistakes my channel for a professional model train studio. Or the people that run their trains on the floor, and people are like, why are you running your trains on the floor? Don't you know it's because that's where they can run them? Yeah, and that's it. It's your channel. We all have these platitudes. We all have these phrases we say. The problem is the people are out there, and yes, they'll always be out there. But when they do get away with chasing people off of YouTube, people that, as I said in a video I did last year, we forget that because we're watching YouTube on our TV or our devices, the way we watch TV shows, we mistake a YouTube video for a TV show or a movie. And think about that on a subconscious level. When you go to a channel on YouTube and then you meet that person in real life, you have a little bit of that star power, that, oh my God, I'm meeting so-and-so from this channel. Like you're meeting a TV star, because our brains have already, in the age of TV, the last 50 years, we now, if it's on the TV or it's on my phone, it's a celebrity status. And people mistake that the vast majority of people posting on YouTube are just people in their homes throwing something up. They're not trying to do professional videos to entertain the masses. They're just saying, here's what I'm doing today, or here's where I'm going in. And the thing is, it should be like a pub. You come in, and if you don't like what's on the menu, you go find a different pub. You don't sit at this pub and bitch and complain that they're not putting on they're not serving what you want them to serve. It's like going into a Chinese restaurant and demanding that they serve veal parmesan and lasagna, and refusing to leave because, by God, you came into this place and you want veal parmesan and lasagna. And there's got to come a point where we need to help police the bullies, for lack of a better term, the people that just feel the need to go in. Because I will do that. I will go on to friends' channels, and if I see somebody being a little too critical, I'll call them out. My friends will say, don't do it, and I'm like, I'm sorry. I feel this person needs their attitude checked at the door. Yeah, and the thing is, and you tell people just get over it, or if you have thin skin, you shouldn't be on YouTube. Well, YouTube isn't about, and YouTube makes you forget it's mom and pops and people of all walks of life putting things on YouTube, because YouTube is always pushing, grow your channel and make money and do this. And it's like half the people on YouTube seem to feel that they're expected to put on a professional presentation. And we, the viewers, apparently forget that it's not meant to be professional. I don't. I like it if I watch somebody that really puts on a professional, really works hard to make it professional. And a lot of you do. You work very hard to put your stuff out there. You met Judge Reinhold. Oh, that's cool. Hey, Clintonville, welcome in anyhow. And, we use the term keyboard warriors, but to me, keyboard warriors are the people that, go in and want to argue over a topic that, whether it's on a political video or, argue DC versus DCCs. They want to fight that battle. This is keyboard bullying. which is easier to do because the person's not next to you to punch you in the nose if you're out of line. You know, because, and if you do call them out, they'll say, hey, I was just trying to be helpful. It's like, did they ask you? In that video, did they say, please help me? Because if they didn't, then shut up. You know, I always go back to both Graham Folston and Tim Wells, two UK guys, because Graham Folston builds beautiful stuff. And some of the criticisms from the know-it-alls, the guys that come in and just, oh, you're building that wrong. It's like, when he gets it done, it's going to look better than yours and work better. He knows what he's doing. Or Tim, that had so many people, good people, that sit in this chat, but they would be, oh, look at him, he's doing this wrong, or he's doing this backwards. And I would just say, shut up and wait till he's done. And when he was done, he had this beautiful built stuff. But Tim, and maybe he's listening in, I always felt Tim at times allowed the audience to dictate to him how he should do things. And I think he kind of got lost in that. Now he's doing his photography business and doesn't really do trains anymore. Every now and then on Facebook, he talks about coming back to trains, but I think his photography business has exploded and is booming and he's doing well with it. Yeah, a different view on both. Clintonville, I could spend 5 hours here easily talking about bullying. And we don't want to get into a contest of who suffered. I mean, I've got the knife wounds from bullying, okay? We could talk about what is bullying, but the minute we get into that, it's like, oh, you broke your hand. Well, this person's got cancer. Don't complain about your broken hand. When we start getting into a degree of, well, this is worse and get over this, bullying in any shape or form is negative. And, you know, I carry the scars from growing up where I grew up and the bludgeonings I took. The beatings I took from the thugs in my neighborhood. I can joke and say in the long run, it made me a better fighter, but it doesn't, the scars don't go away, so to speak. It's a tough one. Hey, Dundas, how are you? And that's the thing. So I'm going to go ahead and pop this up in here. I probably depressed everybody. But it is it's something to that we have to be respectful of. I try to be very respectful until people cross a line of respect, and then I will, depending on the situation, I will, like on my own channel, I will fire back, and occasionally on other channels, I'll call somebody out for being a real jerk. Hey, Jason, the train freak is here. Get a chance to work on the layout while it's still storming outside. Well, at least you're inside. And I see Eric from Von Don Eisenbahn is here. Welcome in. In the basement now, coming up top, we have Randall Ellison. Hello, Randall. How are you?
Hey, Anthony. Hello, everybody in chat.
You're not swimming, so you're...
No, I'm not swimming, thank goodness. But it got a little interesting, we'll say that, last night. So,
well, you've been driving back and forth through a lot of the damage. I won't necessarily say it's epic, but it was definitely several towns are saying it's the worst storms they've ever seen.
Well, see, a lot of the guys that's there are comparing this flood that's happening now to what happened back in 1982. Now, for those that's not familiar with the area, this is actually before my time by a couple of years. But apparently there was a flood similar to this, and it washed out several areas on the railroad. There was I believe, a train that got washed off the tracks at Ravenden, Arkansas, was what I was told. In fact, I looked at some of the old photos of it. They had them at the depot yesterday, and it looked eerily similar to what Mammoth Spring looks like right now and surrounding areas. But
the worst flooding I ever saw was the Mississippi River, and my brain now condenses time. So I don't know if it was 15 years ago or 25 years ago, but I just remember Cairo, Illinois, across to Missouri and so forth was just a couple of miles wide each direction, was just submerged.
Yeah, and that year they ended up having to reroute a lot of trains over the Cuba sub, and the not the Thayer sub, but over the Cuba sub, which runs from St. Louis to Springfield, because of the flooding. Because see, the Thayer subdivision, it crosses the Mississippi at Memphis, Tennessee. And then there's the what they call the river sub, which actually does run along the Mississippi River. So that there was a lot of issues that year too. So
now see, Arty here says Jason's talking about he had a tree got blown over with today, and he's going to chop it down. And Arty says saves you getting a permit to cut your trees. We don't have to. The only time you have to get a permit to chop trees, there's two reasons. Number one is there is a section of our property in front of next to the street that is city property, and you can't just chop that down. You have to have the city come out and do it, or buy a permit and get permission from the city to do it. And then the other one is if it's tall enough to take out any wiring nearby, then you have to get a permit. Otherwise, you don't need to get a permit to chop a tree down. It just as if it's not near power lines, or again, it depends on where you're at. Like if I'm chopping down a tree that could fall and hit my neighbor's house, I better be insured and I better have a permit to do it, or better yet, hire a licensed and bonded company to do it. But yeah, it was. You guys have just been deluged, and there's just so many people.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're not even 3 weeks ago. We had tornadoes coming through the area, so
yeah,
there was the tornado touched down in neighboring Baxter County and went up through Bakersfield and up through West Plains. There's still trees laying all over the place from that. So, and then just most recently, a few days ago, the tornado that hit Bay, Arkansas, and knocked over 2 trains, and then went to Lake City and pretty much just decimated that town. So, yeah, it's been a
Jeff,
one of the local weather reporters on TV called it. He said this will go down as one of the most historic events probably ever in the area. So,
all right, I got 2 more people in the basement. So the first one up has been waiting the longest. So we're going to bring up Mark from Zantec. Hello, Mark.
Hello, guys. How you doing? It's a lovely, fine evening.
Not a lovely, fine evening here. It's been a dismal, dreary, gray, rainy day. So a lot of the things I wanted to work on outside, I still got my Christmas stuff up. I got my big light up Christmas wreath on the front of the house and all the Christmas lights. They should have been taken. I should have taken advantage of the best weather we had was a week ago. We had fairly sunny skies and temperatures, mid 60s. So that's about 20 to 22 Celsius. And but Joyce was working. And I won't go up on the step ladder. I have to do the extended ladder because I got to go up 20 feet. And I won't do that alone. That's one of the few things I won't do alone. Somebody better be down there holding that ladder, because unfortunately I've been on ladders and sink into soft ground.
The bottom's kicked out and down you go.
I had to learn pole vault moves the hard way.
Oh God. So I'm just trying to find a decent.
And you got to brace it and then jump at the last second so you don't land on your side, and not fun.
Yeah.
No.
All right. Do you have anything specific you want to show right now before I pull up our 4th guest, who is
a couple of new buildings here.
Hey, Chase, welcome in.
Town scene. Hello, Chase.
So
I've got
hey, Chase.
little Piper there. It's still there. I've got to paint this guy.
Bagpiper statue. That's cool. Although I hope they have the courtesy to protect that properly. You don't want to be standing on the ground looking up at that statue going, "Oh, that's what they wear under the kilt." See if the sculptor has a sense
of got the Japanese Royal Train there. Hot 7000 series there. I've got some Mark IIIs coming to me in this livery. Repaint. These are Mark IIs. I've got some Mark IIIs coming in that colour scheme as well. Got a,
I don't think Auto Attila. Okay, nice. All right, we got one last person who's been waiting.
Lest we forget.
We got one last person I got to bring up, Mark. So they've been waiting long enough.
Okay.
All the way from Denmark. So we've got the United States, Britain, and Denmark are now. We have Jean Ricard is here.
Yeah.
Hey, John.
Guys, why
Hello.
are you
I'm happy to be finally able to attend at least some of the stuff that you put out on the net, So I woke up just in time to disturb the live stream as such.
Indeed,
and
you
hello
have.
to everybody.
Disturbed.
Hello. Jean-Luc, how you doing?
All right, good night, Willie. Good night, Willie. Gute Nacht, schlaf gut.
I've also, as well, got these container skates.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing is, they are lighter than a book of true things ever said by a politician, which means they don't hold the track very well. I've had to put in each one.
Welcome in, Rick.
Each container has had to have one of these weights fitted.
Not a surprise.
Basically, because the axles, even though they are perfectly gauged, when they come into the points and they come to go around the corners, there's not that much weight pushing down. The bogies weren't turning.
Yep.
And off it came.
Hello, Mike at Putnam Junction. Great to have you here, sir.
Hey, Mike.
Hello, Mr. Putnam Junction.
Real quick while he's running that, Anthony, what I was going to tell you, for those that weren't following the story of that washout at Mammoth, the crew on that train is fine. Their head end was sitting at the depot at Mammoth Spring, and I was tasked to pick them up and take them to Springfield. So I picked them up.
What happened, Randall?
We had some pretty major flooding here last night and early this morning, and it washed an empty BNSF coal train off the tracks.
Yeah.
There.
So I have a picture that I can share.
Was it because the tracks disappeared, or was it just so severe flooding?
So, John, the way I understood, the water got up and got over the bridge. If you're not familiar with the area, at Mammoth Spring, where you turn to go downtown, there's a stoplight there. Well, if you go through the stoplight on 63, there's a sharp left-hand corner if you're going towards Hardy, Arkansas, and it'll be the first bridge you cross, and it crosses right over the BNSF main line.
Okay.
So there was an empty coal train that was sitting there, and had been there most of the late night, early morning hours when it was heavy raining, and apparently the crew, just from what I gathered from the crew of that train,
Let me see if I can.
they were they had actually they were actually told they were going to have to shove the train back and cut the crossing because there was a residence about maybe about a quarter mile from where I'm from, the area in which the train was washed off. And there's a residence that lives right next to the river. Well, the water was getting up, and the people living there couldn't get out because the train was sitting there blocking the crossing. So they had to shove the train back, cut the crossing so they could get out. Then they pulled the front half of the train back to where the head end was at the depot again. And the conductor got back on the lead motor locomotive, and they said it probably was about 30 minutes later, roughly, and the train went into emergency sitting there. And that's when they knew that at least some of the cars been washed off.
Okay.
We actually drove down to where it happened, where the cars got washed off. Of course, there's photos all over Facebook and everything. Anthony's has some of the photos as well, but we know there's probably about 3 to 5 cars that most likely are laying somewhere at the bottom of Spring River as we speak.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to get some of the pictures here.
Yeah,
you took.
They're not great pictures. There's some really good pictures. I think I sent Anthony a link to, but
yeah, StreamYard's not letting me share them out of Facebook.
Okay.
I have to download and save them.
All right, well, it's fine, but
I'll get them here in a second.
Anyway, it actually took 2 of the cars and carried them downriver a little ways and shoved them up against the trees up against the bank.
So what you basically say is the train was in a cutting that got so flooded that the cars could actually float away.
Yeah.
Okay. I got it now.
The river had actually carried 2 of the empty coal hoppers and shoved them up against the. There's one of the photos right there. They're not great, but you can see right there where the track is actually twisted, where that bridge starts.
It's just, no, I wouldn't say normally, but if they have problems in Denmark with a situation where they get too much water around the track bed, it's normally the track bed that is undermined by the water, so that you basically just doesn't have any ground connections anymore. It's not washed away in as such, it's more
right
like an unlucky parking of the stuff.
By the way, Clintonville, I hope you get to feeling better. That's no fun getting sick like that. But there's another photo too where you can actually see the track start to twist, where the water actually twisted the tracks where the bridge is. It looked pretty gnarly. And right there at the bottom of your screen, right there, that's actually the Spring River. That's on the bottom. That's actually the Spring River right there on the bottom, where you see where the cars kind of curve to the right a little bit. That's actually that's actually part of the
okay,
spring.
hang on just a second, Randall. I'm going to get rid of this picture for a second and see if I can now set this up so I can go through your picture.
All right, yeah, sure.
So this time,
that was a loaded freight train?
There we go. Okay.
Say that again, Vantech.
Was that a loaded freight train?
No, those were empty. Yeah, right here, you can see where the tracks are where the water actually twisted the tracks up and actually tried to pull this last hopper, this silver color one, off the tracks. It's cranked over to one side.
Yeah. Did that zoom in for you guys?
Yeah, there you go. You can actually see right there where the tracks actually curve up.
As we can see, it's actually the cars in itself is not yet in the water. It's actually the entire under care. What do you call it? The ground, the track bed that is washed away, because you can see the sleepers hanging freely in the air. So it's
Mhm.
it's a very classic situation when you have a flooding of a train line,
Yeah,
and
there's a video further that I can't upload. There's a video that Randall sent me where it shows the cars and the track actually in the water. That the
Yep.
water, it's further up from where this picture is, but unfortunately I can't load the video in and show it.
It's a
Okay.
little hard to see through the trees right there. If I'd have been smart and actually followed the crew and actually walked across the highway bridge, I could have took a real good picture of it right there. I wasn't even thinking at that time. I was just so blown away by what I was seeing that.
May I ask questions? Do you know what
Yep.
the weight of an empty hopper like that is?
Not exactly, John. I know when the trains run empty, their total weight, which by the way, they average 125 to 135 cars average. Now, obviously, that can change depending on where the train originates and terminates from, but they're about 7,500 feet in length. When they run empty, I think it seemed like I looked them up once, and they're about 3,200 tons empty.
Okay, but
so
I'm
That's
not sorry.
It's only about 16 tons empty, you say?
something like that. Yeah, 16, 20 tons empty.
Okay.
Now, when they're loaded, they can haul 110 tons of coal per car.
Okay, so that's 125 tons, 130 tons for a loaded car.
Right.
But I'm just amazed, of course it's basically a big basin, so they should float in some way, at least for
I mean, it shows you the power of really the Spring River itself. It's actually kind of sort of two rivers because the Warm Fork actually flows into the Spring River at Mammoth Spring. But that, like I said, that one photo Anthony showed you, if you looked at the bottom of it, that's actually technically the Spring River. But
Thing is, though, Jean, the old actually, even though it's like a big basin, I think the hopper costs of the old's actually watertight.
Yes. That they're the bays on the bottom of them, they're actually hydraulically controlled.
Of course
they can open and close. Yeah, they can open and close.
Clintonville says, did you hear about the CSX derailment? The cops called 4 hours before saying there was missing track and railroad still sent a train down the line.
I don't surprise me, Clintonville.
Not a shocker. Corporate, pay attention to dangerous situations.
But don't they have the track occupation?
I'm going to join you on YouTube rather than Streamlabs, because I just need to go to the bathroom. So
okay.
Say that again. Say that again, John. I didn't quite hear you.
Yeah, I'll try. I just asked, don't the railway have a track occupation system so that they know there's something, either the track is occupied by the empty train that is at a standstill?
You mean like a signaling system?
Yeah,
they do. That line, the Thayer subdivision is CTC controlled, so they have signal points. They have signals every couple of miles or so.
Then they shouldn't send a train towards the train that is at a standstill.
So what? This train that you were looking at was already sitting there. It was waiting for another train ahead of it to clear. Yeah. Unfortunately, that train that was ahead of it also encountered a problem when it warped part of the tracks out near Cobra Lumber Company at the north end of the yard at Thayer, and it ended up grounding one. Let me try that again. It ended up grounding one of the lead locomotives on that train. So,
because that was the one, Joyce, that the to me, of all the things that came out of the storms the last few days, because you guys got hit with another deluge yesterday. We've had rain today, but not the deluge. But those storms Wednesday, Thursday, with all the tornadoes, to me, the scariest of all video was the video the engineer, the driver, filmed from the front of his locomotive of the tornado coming at him, and you can't move.
I know the engineer that was on that train too, because I hauled him the other day. He told me about it. He said he was sitting there and said he saw the tornado drop down, cross I-55 and start coming towards them. And they knew it was going to hit the train right in front of them.
Yeah, it's amazing what kind of weather phenomena you have.
And the auto, we actually ended up driving through there yesterday, I think is what it was.
Right.
Yesterday, before. Yeah. And the auto racks, they had already drug them off the track so they could start running trains again. But they were right beside the road, so you could actually look in them and see what was in them. They were full of brand new Toyotas and BMWs, what I was told was what was in them. So there was like Toyota Sienna vans, like rail crew uses. They were tossed around inside the auto racks. It was just a real mess. There was parts of freight cars laying all over the place. There was containers laying on the other side of the road.
Never thought a train spotter would have to be looking up to do train spotting. Hey, is that the 1117 Union Pacific SD40 going? No, I think that's
it somehow makes me think of a reply from an old film. Are we still in Kansas?
Toto, I don't think we're in Kansas anymore.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
the kicker was actually, when I said I knew the engineer that filmed the tornado, I actually know both of the engineers. The one that was actually on the train when the tornado struck it, or struck the middle part of it, it didn't strike where the locomotive was at, and the guy that filmed the tornado coming towards them. So,
okay, are they okay?
They're fine.
Okay.
The tornado hit right in the middle of both trains. Okay. So the crews and the locomotives were unaffected, but it hit right in the middle of both trains and basically destroyed the cars.
Yeah, Greg's here. Hey, Greg from Great Northern. This time it did attach, but my computer still won't let me open it. Greg's been trying to send me this video he wants to share, and I think we're on try 2 or 3, and first time it didn't attach. This time it attached and got through, but now it won't let me open it.
What does Steve 87 means by that? Knowing and
carry. Well, we were talking earlier about, I just left the message up too long.
Low mile used cars.
Basically about the owners, the executives. They can know that the storm might have caused some damage and blah blah blah, but caring, different thing.
I just didn't hear it in context. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
We're to try to avoid the politics side of it. The railroads are controlled by investment groups that are. Let's just say less than desirable.
Does anybody in here know the science fiction novel? They've made 3 different movies of it, and all 3 have sucked. Dune.
Yeah.
If you know Dune, there is a phrase that runs throughout Dune. The spice must flow. The spice.
There you go, right there.
And that is pretty much any investment control group, including the railroads. The spice must flow.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll just leave it at that. We won't get into the weeds, but
by the way,
I think Anthony just summed it up perfectly right there. So
yeah. By the way, talking about companies and controls of railways, I don't know if you know or have heard that the company Maersk Line, that is mostly known for container shipping,
the NSF all some of their stuff.
Yeah, but they have bought the Central Panamanian Railway of all things. I don't know why, but
Right, I heard about that.
yeah, that was one of the big news in in Denmark, since the company has a headquarter in Denmark. So they told us that.
The Dane, because Maersk is Danish, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
They've got
Originally
their eyes
found
on Panama. Uh-oh.
Well, I don't want to sound political, but why?
Then don't.
Okay. I was just wondering why one person should have every go
No,
at
no,
it.
no, 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 don't.
No, don't go there, John. Don't go there. We don't.
Sorry. I retract my saying.
It's fine. But yeah, that could open up a whole new can of worms, and I'm not
Yeah.
sure I want to go down that road on.
Not live. We go
No,
down
no.
that road elsewhere, but not live on
Yeah,
camera.
yeah.
We try to keep things
I hope
normally light, considering the dark mood I started this live stream with. But we have to keep things light. But I'm very upset that my friend Al is leaving YouTube because of the harassment for stupidity.
And that's
okay.
unfortunate.
I
You hate to see
hope-
stuff like that.
I hope everybody could hear the irony in my voice when I said it.
Oh, we heard the irony.
That was the.
We even heard the coppery and the tinny.
Okay. We leave it at that. Sorry.
We're trying to see if there was any brassy to it as well.
Well, the only brassy I came up with was that you wanted to look up under the kilt of the figurines on
I didn't want to. I just pointed out that people down below, if the sculptor had a sense of humor, might get.
Yeah, that's where the idea.
Because you can't help it. If somebody puts a statue on a pole 50 feet up, you have to look up, and then you go, "Oh, okay."
I do want to respond to something Steve A7PSAP said a little while ago about the low mileage, the new low mileage used cars. We actually talked about that when we were driving by the wrecked auto racks with all the cars inside them. I was like, I bet that's one way you can go pick up a brand new car real cheap.
New, Toyota for sale, low mileage, only flown once.
Oh yeah.
Instead of only driven once, only flown once.
They've been crash tested already. Daggum, they're in good shape.
Yes, Dan Tech. We were talking about your Piper, the Piper at the Gate of Dawn.
No, one of them guys said that man, you could probably buy them, just change oil in them, and just go drive them.
So, what else is the subject of tonight's stream?
Nothing. I don't have any more subjects. One of the goals, as you already know, and now you know more because you pouted and cried like a baby until I told you, was I was supposed to have a new locomotive that I wanted to show.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm sure you don't. I'm sure you don't.
I don't know what.
How many phone calls did I get this week, Anthony? What are you getting? I'm not going to tell you, John.
Sorry, John. I ain't got nothing either. I mean,
no, I was supposed to
get
a new locomotive. It got delayed in Germany for some reason. It should have been on my doorstep Wednesday, but Wednesday or Monday, it was at the airport in Cologne, and Wednesday it was still at the airport in Cologne, and then they flew it over. But guess where FedEx ships? From Cologne, Germany, Memphis, Tennessee.
Okay.
Oh, there you go.
Big FedEx hub. So because of the storms and everything in Memphis, it got stuck in Memphis for a couple of days. So obviously I can't complain about that. But if the idiots in if FedEx had gotten it shipped on time out of Cone, I would have gotten it before the storms hit.
Yeah, but
Now it's sitting 40 miles north of me.
I actually think that, a lot of shipping between the different parts of the world is also affected in other ways than storms,
Well, see, when I order stuff from like Midwest Mall Road or Iron Planet Hobbies, it has to travel all the way down to Little Rock, Arkansas, and then come back up to Mammoth Spring to the post office and then to my house.
Yeah.
So it adds another couple of days.
But you still, I recall from being in the United States, I was there a couple of times back in the 80s. That's how old I am. And my host family always, I was in California, and she was so proud because she said, "You have really inspired, coming from Denmark to California, you have inspired me. I'm going to travel and see the world." So she was going to Maine, and she said, "Oh, I'm traveling so far, it's several thousand miles." And then I politely replied, "Yes, but you are still in the same country using the same currency, and you don't need a passport." And basically, Randall, I can understand that your parcel's going a little bit around, but it's still inside, the same world, so to speak.
Yeah.
Whereas I could easily think that some of the problems with what Mr. Dodge is ordering right now actually has to go half the world around and still wait for being
Let's not
processed.
exaggerate. It's from Cone to Memphis would be about a third of the world.
Okay.
But weather conditions all around the world will affect travel.
That's
As will some schmuck who sets a box down here and forgets he set it down there, and they load up the plane, and the one box that was supposed to be on the plane, oh yeah, that's still sitting there.
Yeah.
Whoops, I guess we better put it on the next plane.
But as long as it doesn't need water and feeding, then, well, it will take the
You've
time
never
it takes.
traveled with a group of teenagers where you're in charge and you're all sitting on the plane and you are watching them take some luggage off.
Yeah.
And the pilot comes on and says, ladies and gentlemen, we have to remove some luggage from our plane, so there'll be a 15-minute delay. And they're taking this big tray stack of luggage off, and my students are going, wait, that's my bag. Yeah, that's my bag. That's my bag. And we took off, and yeah, their bags came in 2 days later.
Well, I have, as I said, I have been a couple of times to the States. So I do have had a little flight experience. The first time we had to land at Bangor, Maine, because the train ran out of anything to drink or eat because we were so thirsty across the pond. And the second time I went to the United States, I saw my bags being transferred from one plane to another, but I didn't catch the plane, I just saw out the window from the gate that my luggage was hastily transferred from one plane to another, but I didn't get to the plane. So my luggage arrived in advance of me. So I have had my experiences there too.
Clintonville.
Yeah, when you travel the world as often as you have, Jean Ricard, you're going to have some bad experiences. What can I say?
No, I just want to go by boat.
You just want to go by boat. If boats could go as fast as planes, I would rather go by boat. But I don't know how long it now takes, how many days it now takes a ship to go from, let's say, New York City over to like Hamburg to drop you off. But the plane, I hate flying. Nobody hates flying more than me.
Isn't the only ocean liner left Queen Mary 2?
No,
don't know. I think there's a few ocean liners left, but yeah, most of it's
not,
cruise ships now as opposed to true transportation.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's what I meant. Because I remember watching Ocean Liner Designs, and Mike Brady was talking about that, saying that I think it's the Queen Mary 2 is the last remaining transatlantic ocean liner left in service.
Blimp would be scarier than plane, and I hate flying. I white knuckle it. The best thing in the world is my doctor now gives me these pills, and on the trip to Australia and back was the first time I used them, and I will say the panic in the brain was still there, but the body was actually calm.
Yeah,
normally
I
was actually just going to respond to Clintonville talking about Cattle Unitrack. I
can't imagine sailing either those big waves, and if a storm comes in,
oh well.
Oh yeah.
Most of the time, you're just sitting at a well-laid table and enjoying a great meal and
trying to eat your soup while the bowl is sliding back and forth. Miss again.
Be like that Yosemite Sam cartoon where he's sitting there trying to eat his soup and the bowl keeps sliding back and forth.
Yeah. And the thought of iceberg scares me. At least the ships nowadays have to have the proper number of lifeboats.
Yeah, but you don't have to take the circumpolar route to go across the Atlantic. I would also prefer going more southerly than most icebergs comes.
Hey, Bob, what type of lettuce do you want in the salad? Iceberg! He wants iceberg. No, iceberg! He said he wants iceberg lettuce. No, iceberg! Yeah.
Yeah, but then who would go living in the States? You can scream tornadoes all the time then.
Oh, we got tornadoes and hurricanes and all sorts of crazy stuff. Yep.
Yeah.
But Toledo, we don't get the hurricanes. To be honest, we don't even get the tornadoes. They're just a couple of miles south of us or a couple of miles north of us.
Yeah. Until
every once in a while,
where Joyce and I are, we're about as the safest place on continental U.S. Every now and then we'll get a blizzard or a heavy rainstorm, but otherwise,
okay. So
the big storms always go just a little bit north or a little bit south.
The closest thing we get to
that Toledo is such a dying city that even tornadoes won't come here.
Yeah. I was going to say, the closest thing we get to a hurricane here, we have had a tropical storm come up through here once.
Yeah, you can get them
a couple times. Yeah,
through the Gulf of Mexico. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I just want to comment on your pills for Australia. Who wouldn't take pills before going to Australia? Who wouldn't?
I don't know. I figure I'm going to have to take some pills before I go to Denmark. Actually, I don't know if I'll be taking pills. I just might be slipping pills somewhere.
Okay.
Oh, Jean fell asleep. Let's get his trains out.
Okay. That would be interesting. Then
Toledo's actually had a couple of earthquakes. One we had last year. We had but it was like 3.8 on the Richter scale. Barely. We did feel the house shake, and it lasted for like a second. And I was like, "What the hell was that?" And then, that was an earthquake. The last one, Joyce and I were in college, and we were walking together across the university common grounds. And we felt the ground shake, but the worst thing was there was a squirrel running across an electrical wire, and the shaking moved the wire on him, and he missed and fell. Oh. I hate to say it, I laughed like, oops, boom. The news is there were no casualties in the earthquake today, a 4.1 in the Toledo area. It's very rare to have such a high magnitude. Joyce and I are like, what do you mean no casualties? At least one squirrel died.
Yeah.
But yeah, no matter where you live, there's something. I mean, we've been talking about the flooding of trains and how it affected the rail lines in Missouri and Arkansas, Tennessee, and so forth. But earlier this year, the UK had some massive flooding in a couple of areas and had major disruption in some of their northern routes. I know Leslie Gilpin in the Carlisle area was talking about it. They had they had some areas washed out. Chicago had a 4.5 back in 2000. We had because we're only about, depending on how fast you drive, we're about 4 hours to 5 hours east of Chicago. And the one in 2000, we had a much lesser, I mean, we didn't even know it. We got told on the news, actually, there was a quake of, to us, it was like 2.8 magnitude or something like that. And I forget what the line is where you actually feel it.
Yeah.
But yeah, Atlas says, I want to take pills. The pills don't put me to sleep. Although if I want to sleep, I'm not so tensed up that I can actually sleep. I actually slept more on the plane than Joyce did going over to Australia. Joyce did not sleep well. But Naples had a 4.4 when you're there. Unfortunately, that area does have quite a bit because you got the Mediterranean we talk about the Pacific rim of volcanoes, but you got a nice rim of volcanoes going. And Naples, of course, is right next to Mount Vesuvius, which is due for another eruption relatively soon.
We have the New Madrid Fall here. Or,
Yep.
well, I'd say here, it's off towards Blue Hill, Missouri, but they keep saying we're due for a bad earthquake out of that deal, so we'll see what happens there.
It's when you choose to live on the edge of the tectonic plate.
Yep.
Then you would have earthquakes.
But you say when you choose to. Yes, if life is generous, then you can potentially move. But you're a victim of where your parents decided to.
Oh yeah, of course. But it's actually amazing. It's not very long ago they had a television program about Italia, and they were talking about Sicily, and as you said, there's also
Mount Etna.
Mount Etna there, and that's one of the most densely populated areas in the whole area of Sicily. But that's also because the volcanic soil is so fruitful,
Yes, that's why. I mean, why do you think Hawaii is so green? That's the thing. Why do you think people always go, why do you live there? Because the soil is some of the best farmland and rich in nutrients of any farmland. Volcanic land, when it's not glowing red hot, is great for growing whatever you want to grow in it. It's fantastic.
And you get some great pineapples to put on pizza, so I would also prefer to live on Hawaii and get my Hawaiian.
You want to live in Hawaii? Wow. Not me. Too warm, too green. I mean, I don't have a problem with the green. I need to live in a place that's going to give me snow a few months of the year.
But
I will never outgrow that. But Toledo's like a disease. I have tried to leave Toledo so many times in my life, and I always wound up back here. Born here, moved away several times. Parents moved back here. Grew up here, went away to 2 different schools, came back. My first professional teaching job was out of Toledo, and then wound up back here. And then Joyce was kind of the final straw because where I was trying to get away from my family, she wanted to be close to her family. So we moved back to Toledo.
So basically you have a tight umbilical cord to Toledo area.
Yeah, I would not mind snipping it because actually the second job I was ever offered was to teach at a boarding school in Switzerland, to teach English at a boarding school in Switzerland. That was the first where I interviewed on the phone. I hadn't even graduated school yet.
If you had been doing that, you would today run the most expensive 3-rail trains like Haag.
I don't know what I'd be doing. I might have gotten into the train hobby earlier and probably still discovered Maryland. And but Joyce did not want to move overseas. Every now and then she kind of regrets. She's like, how different our lives would have been if we had gone to Switzerland when you got the job offer. And then I had another job offer from basically a private a weird private school up in Traverse City, Michigan, and then the state of Ohio Department of Corrections hired me to teach in a prison, and I decided to go with that. Was one where I had to train in Columbus, and then they were either going to put me somewhere in Toledo or Columbus. So I took that job. But the thing is, I didn't want to do what teachers had to do back in the 80s when they started, which was substitute teach, where you sit and wait for somebody to call and say, we need you at this school. I wanted to go into a situation where I started teaching and earning retirement right away. So I ignored all the, I applied and got hired into systems that did not, that I would have gone straight into teaching, and others where I would have gone into the substitute pool, and I didn't want to do that. So the prison job, just the like only one where we weren't going to move too far away from Joyce's family.
I like the way you explain how you spend a year in prison.
I got to go home at night, Jean, so I was not an inmate.
If you say so.
I say so, but if you want, I will demonstrate some of the techniques I got trained in self-defense.
No need for that. And I won't share the
because I had to do. I did 3 months of training when I got hired. I had to do 3 months of training. Joyce and I got married, and our honeymoon was 5 days, cut much shorter than we planned. 5 days, and then I had to report to Columbus, Ohio, and start my training. And we had 7-hour days. 3 hours in the morning were classes in psychology, diagnosis, blah, 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 all these different things. And then the second shift, you had 3 hours, hour for lunch.
Good night, Clintonville.
Hey, good night, Clintonville. I'm going to be wrapping this up in a couple of minutes. And then the second 3 hours was law and self-defense, law, blah, 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 but also courses in self-defense. How to break up fights, how to defend yourself if an inmate goes crazy in your classroom, blah, blah, blah. And so we got trained. It wasn't quite military boot camp, but when we went through when the guys came in from the Department of Corrections, the big top trainers, a bunch of big state policemen, they put us through our paces. Which over 36 years as a teacher, I used that training many times. And I'm actually grateful for it because, for example, there was a possibility we could have been assigned to a female inmate prison. And as a male officer, because we were called officers, I didn't have a badge, but I had an agent's card, and that signified that I was a officer of the Department of Corrections. And to get the badge, you also had to do the gun training, but that was not required training. You would have had to done that separately, but we didn't carry guns, so it wasn't. But anyhow, how to break up a fight between female inmates. So that when you're breaking up a fight, you don't grab the wrong places and turn around and get sued. So I often amazed my colleagues when girls were fighting, how quickly I was able to break it up and not, touch anywhere that was inappropriate or where you could be accused of being inappropriate. So anyhow, I do want to wrap this up here. Only going an hour tonight. I've got a couple of things I still want to do tonight. People to see, people to do. I mean, things to see, things to do.
I'm sorry if I scared the UK guy off.
No, he had to go to the bathroom and didn't know how long he'd be. No. And there's always next week. There's always next week until Arty finally comes back. I think that day is closing in. Hopefully, within 2 weeks. Hopefully.
Are you sure that he's coming back? I think he enjoys tormenting you as the key host here.
No, Arty wants to be wants to be in front of the camera again. And at least the next time we see Arty in front of a camera, I'm hoping it will be with a big grin from ear to ear, because reports are things have gone well for Arty. But
that.
And it's going to be an emotional release for him, I'm sure, because it's been 4.5, almost 5 years of absolute shit, pardon my language, but that he has been put through. I've been there and seen some of it. I've been involved in some of it just because of a picture I posted on Facebook. I got dragged into it. So hopefully, 5 years of hell.
Yeah.
Attila Vargas says Minamura Falls was the last volcano to blow up the East Coast. Great. I was just at Minamura last year. God, that was a year ago already. Australia was a good trip. It was.
And by the way, Anthony, I will post that video on my YouTube channel that I sent you.
Cool.
It's not very long. It's only about a minute and change. But if you guys want to kind of a short, sweet look at what the aftermath looks like, I will try to have that up either tomorrow or the next day. And also another episode of NASCAR Heat 5 Career Mode is coming.
Yeah, but you've already warned me. I may not want to watch that one.
Anthony,
hey, Dolph, you're late. I'm wrapping up early tonight.
I'm afraid Kahat Automotive Enterprises is not going to be very happy.
The Kahat's not going to be happy with Fredo.
He may end up pulling, he might end up pulling a knife on Fredo after this one.
Fredo's going to be sent to the retraining program and can understand.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
He's going to throw him in the Kahat simulator.
I'm kind of worried that Kahat has survived.
No, his descendants have survived.
It's his descendant, John.
Okay, because
see the series is Fredo Bangino the fourth. So
okay.
I'm trying to remember who the crew chief was now. Diesel Dan the fourth is the engine tuner.
The Kahat is a wily guy. He's one of those guys that just when you think he's dead, maybe he's not. Because I am working on Matt Clark season 4.
Yeah, you say so. But poor Stanley Steam here is still out.
Oh no, that bastard's dead. He's dead and buried. He's not coming back.
Okay.
That evil bastard is long gone. Sorry, John.
And the pit crew's the Four Finger Gang. So
there you go. Yeah, which is appropriate for a pit crew. All right, everybody. Anyhow, I want to call it a night. Last week I went almost 3 hours. So this week I want to cut it short, and I've got a couple of things to do, including some video editing to do. Yeah, hopefully we'll have a new song coming out tomorrow. I want to say thanks to everybody who decided to waste part of their Saturday or Sunday morning with us, Saturday night, Sunday morning. And Jean Ricard, go to bed and get some sleep, you crazy old man.
I'll try.
And Randall, you stay safe out there. Hopefully you don't have to swim to work.
Well, right now the rain's over for now, so hopefully things will dry out. They'll get the roads rebuilt. BNSF will get their tracks rebuilt, and everything will be back to normal in the next couple of weeks.
To all of you in those affected areas, our best wishes to you. Yep. Hopefully any damage you suffered gets taken care of quickly.
A question for you, Randall, on the relief. Do you need a life vest to be sent to you? Yeah.
No, I think I'm good, John. I don't think we're going anywhere where there's going to be any water, I hope so.
Okay.
All right.
Well,
all right. Good night, everybody. Take care.
See you guys. See you, John. See you, Anthony. Fun chat.
Bye.
See you guys.
Bye.